Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm doing a little shooting today. I'm out here at the range, drove up here, gonna do a little slug test. So what I've got going on today that I want to try are these Varmint knocker 50 grain slugs. I've seen great things about them. Actually, I got my 68 whiskey shirt on today. He was the first guy, it was Keith. I saw using these things to some great effect on pigeons, and I mean, they seem like they're really expanding well. I've always used the Nielsons. I've got this thing tuned right now. Actually, I sent it to Ken Hicks, had him tune it. He's gotten this thing shooting at 930 feet per second. This is the 47.2 grain, 930 feet per second with a spread of about 4 or 5 and a standard deviation of 1. So it's pretty impressive. So anyways, we're gonna shoot the 47.2s, which is what it's tuned for. And then I'm gonna try these Varmint knocker 50 grains. I'm really, you know, if I had to say one thing about the Nielsons that I didn't love about them is I don't feel like I'm getting really good expansion. I've shot a lot of squirrels and pigeons and even several prairie dogs, but the exit hole was the same size as the entrance hole. I wasn't really getting any expansion, and you would think on a heavier bodied varmint like a decent sized prairie dog, you'd get some good expansion. And you know, you see people with slugs that are just almost exploding and tearing small game apart, and I'm just punching a little hole through them, granted. Anyways, I'm sitting here, I'm gonna do some shooting. I'm gonna shoot a group on paper here with the 47.2s at 50 yards, and we're just gonna see how that looks. Then I'm gonna shoot some of the Varmint knockers at 50, then we'll move it out to 100. All right, here we go. These are the 47.2 grain Nielsons at 50 yards. Table's a little wobbly. Those two are touching. Ow! Ow! It's a nice little 3-shot, 1-hole group, but it's a little low. All right, see if we've got it a little more zeroed now. Same spot. Got it centered now. Wind really picked up on that last one, but it's hitting really good. It's a nice little group considering how gusty it is. right. So we know we're zeroed. Just wanted to double check that, see what kind of a group we got as our base group with the Nielsens. Now we're gonna throw these varmint knockers out. I'm really excited. I feel like these might be a little softer. I wish I had a BHN meter so I could see if part of the reason why those Nielsens aren't expanding are that they're harder or that they just have like a thicker sidewall. All right, here we go. 50 grain varmint knocker. I'm just gonna shoot that big target so I don't waste one. I wanna save them for 100. All right, those look to be about the same. Let's go down there and check them out. So, this is the Nielsen. These were sight ends. Then I moved it, and then I put 1, 2, 3, 4 shots in the 10 ring stacked up, one teeny tiny little hole, and then these two. But honestly, I don't know if you can hear the wind blowing in the microphone or not, but it is gusting pretty darn good. So considering you know, probably the wind moved those two, that's a really tight group. All right, here's the group I shot with the varmint knockers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shots all right there. But man, look at those Nick Nielsen's 5 shots in the 10 ring. Well, that's really hard to. All right, these are the Nick Nielsens. Get these at 100 yards. Should be 8 minutes. No, it's low. There we go. First one was a little off. That's a real nice looking group at 100 yards. Real nice. Yeah, it's a nice looking group at 100 yards in decent wind. All right, shoot these VKs. Third group with the VKs at 100 yards. Let me double check my pressure here. Top right target. I don't even know where that went. I think those are going high. I'm gonna go back to like 4 minutes. No, let's try 6. There we go. Oh man, that's spraying these. Tightening up now. Now it's really tightening up. You know, I've heard people say that when you switch pellets, send 3, 4, 5, 10 down range first to kind of let it dial in. I've never really noticed that myself too much. Definitely right now though, those first couple were kind of scattered around, and now it's just piping them in there. That's a really tight group, those last few. Now the wind's really picking up on me. They definitely shoot a little flatter than the Nielsen's. I'm holding 6 minutes instead of 8 minutes, and they're basically the same, the proper spot. Hit the gong. All right, so we've shot him at 50, we've shot him at 100, and I'd say they're pretty close. We're gonna go down there and check out the target and see what we're looking at. All right, so here's my 2 groups at 100 yards. This is the Nick Nielsen's. So, you know, we are out here in the wind, and this one I was kind of figuring out which one to use. That one I think was a flyer or the wind, but right here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots and probably an inch center to center on that. It's probably right at an inch, maybe inch and an eighth. But real world conditions, man, that's why I love slugs. It is breezy, it's gusty, and that's still a pretty darn tight, happy group right there for 100 yards in the wind with the Nick Nielsen's. And then come over here, I switched, and I swear the first one was like here, then here, then here, and then here. I'm not sure, we'll check the camera. But then it just really tightened up and started dropping them in there. But still, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 7 right there. And that's maybe an inch and a half. a little more, maybe 1.5/8. I don't think it's quite 1 3/4, but it is definitely not as tight as this little group right here with the Nielson 47.2s. Now granted, it is tuned for that gun. Like I said, Ken Hicks tuned this gun to shoot these slugs, so I would expect nothing less than that. If I tinkered with the tune on these, maybe found what velocity, what power they like better, I think they're showing some good potential. You know, the bad thing about these, the VKs, they're $20 for 100 plus 7 shipping, $27 for 100, that's 27 cents a slug. These Nielsens that are doing this are 18 plus 7 shipping, 25 for 200. So almost half the price, like 13 cents or something per slug on the Nielsens, 27 cents a slug on these VKs. I mean, I'm just, for right now, I'm not much for tinkering and tuning. I've got a gun that'll do this, that, you know, I've got a perfect tune on it from Ken Hicks and Spa guns. So, you know, why am I going to mess with that? It's tuned for that, it's doing that, and that's what I'm going to take out and do some hunting and prairie dogging with. So, here's a little video snippet from the scope cam. I'm just throwing in this one in there to show you guys, you know, what the wind's doing. You can see it blowing all that grass. You can see, if you look behind the target, when the slug hits the ground, you can see the puff of dirt fly up and turn into a little dust devil and blow away on the wind pretty quickly. So don't be too critical of these groups, considering it was probably a solid 15-mile-an-hour breeze with gusts over 20. So just one more note on these groups. One thing I look at isn't necessarily just the outside diameter of the group, which both of these groups are probably the same, 2.5 inches or so OD on these groups. But I'm typically going to choose the one that's going to give me a tighter group and a better cluster inside the center of the group. So if you look at the NSAs, yeah, there's some little flyers down to the right, but that little cluster of 6 shots in the middle there is, you know, 1 inch or so, right at 1 inch. And then if you look at the VKs, you know, it's just a little more spread out. It's hard to pick a little cluster in there. And I just feel like I'm going to choose the one that gives me the tightest little cluster of shots, because then I know when I'm taking a shot on something, you know, especially when I'm pushing the range, that I'm going to have more confidence that the shot I'm taking is going to be inside that cluster. You're always going to have flyers. You're always going to have wind carry a shot. But I just like to know, you know, that I've got a good solid group where my point of impact is. If you look at the little tiny target in the middle that I shot at 50 yards, yeah, there's 2 on the outside right there, but that's 5 shots in almost 1 hole, which was a little tighter than the VKs did at 50 yards. And then you go to the 100-yard groups. I just tend to like those ones that cluster them tighter, even though the outer dimensions of the group might be the same. Keep in mind the wind was crazy, and that's why these groups aren't real beautiful, but it's also just good real-world conditions as to what you can expect out in the field. Thanks for tuning in this week, guys. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the content, as always, please hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, share it around, whatever you feel like doing. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one.